What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday? Going to have an interesting show because the Titans did not fire their special teams coordinator yesterday or this week, and it seems like it's just not going to happen right now. So I was wrong. I said 80% chance that Colt Anderson would be fired this week. It didn't happen. So we're going to get to react to all of that. We'll play the video from head coach Brian Callahan. And I'm going to ask Easton a question that who was at the press conference. Easton and Sam both at that presser yesterday. So able to ask them their thoughts about the media performance, the questions that were asked of Brian Callahan. And just there's something to this that I have not prepped you for. This is a little bit all out around the blind side, maybe. So
Are you watching media tape this morning? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, we absolutely are.
Oh no!
Look, if I'm going to grade Brian Callahan in his press conferences, I'll grade the media
Fair
in
enough.
the press conference as well, right? Everybody's fair game, right? Let's get this thing going. This is going to be a fun show because clearly the Titans special teams are a catastrophe, but it's not Colt Anderson's fault enough to be fired to this point. So we're going to go through and watch the film of Brian Callahan's presser. And then we're going to have a interesting conversation about that. We'll talk about Dan Campbell, who's acting like a schoolgirl on the trade deadline week. And then we'll throw some shade because, man, I am fired up, Easton. I'm ready to go here. So welcome in. Tell the people what they got to do here before we officially get it rolling.
Man, let's do it. Let's have a morning, guys. Good morning to everybody that is with us live. We appreciate you being here. Help us out by hitting that like button on Facebook, on YouTube. If you're watching with us on Twitch, join the comments. We want to hear from you guys this morning. Already seeing Duran, Chris, Jody, Nick, Jameson, Jonathan, Katie, Daniel, and others. Appreciate all of you guys being in here with us this morning. Make sure you hit that like button for us. That's the easiest way that you can help us get the show in front of as many people this morning as humanly possible. So hit that like button, like the show, and let's have a good show today.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Easton Freeze, one of our Titans reporters for A to Z Sports.com, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Link to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. You can find us there at A to Z Sports. Also, more great Titans content on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. Got to thank our sponsors. They truly make it happen for us, and they help out all of you. Like Wilson County Hyundai, make them a big part of your new car buying process in Lebanon, WilsonCountyHyundai.com, the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans, get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans, FBHP.com/ATOZ, and TDOT, be part of the solution to help keep Tennessee clean and get up that litter with NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. Easton, I laughed at your massive, lion-like yawn.
A little tired this morning.
Is this what happens when you have like a 3-month-old?
Yeah, I mean, listen, my daughter Valerie has been the perfect baby for almost all of 3 months of her life. And then the last 24 hours, 48 hours at this point, have been the 2 nights in a row that she has been really, truly a handful for the first time. So, working through that, it's part of the game. You can't be afraid of the grind when you're a parent.
Look, nobody's 100% at this part of the season, right?
That's right. She's allowed to have a couple down days, and it's going to make me tired.
Too. But you're not 100%.
not 100%, let me tell you. But I have a feeling based on our conversation this morning, you and the chat are going to get me properly woken up, properly fired up. So let's dive into the
without
discussion.
A doubt. So I said yesterday, because Zach and I asked the question, you were part of the forming of said question of what percentage chance do you think the Titans actually fire Colt Anderson this week, the special teams coach, after giving up 262 return yards on Sunday in Detroit, 190 of that to Khalif Raymond on 5 punt returns. That was the 5th best punt return performance in NFL history, correct? Is that what it was? And then he had
and would have been number 1 if not for a block in the back.
Yes, that's right. And so I said 80% chance that Colt Anderson's gone. Zach said 49% chance. I'm surprised that Colt Anderson was not let go. I called it the easiest firing decision that Brian Callahan could have made as a head coach because it's very black and white. But there's a lot of other things that get into that. If you're just looking on performance and results, it was not good enough. And I thought firing Colt Anderson would have been the correct move. That did not happen. So here is Brian Callahan talking about Colt Anderson and that job that the Titans special teams did on Sunday against Detroit that really ruined a game. We don't even know what it could have looked like if the defense actually had a legitimate chance in this game. But here's Brian Callahan.
Conversation have you had with Colt in the aftermath of all that happened on special teams yesterday?
Yeah, watch tape together, see where it went wrong, see what issues we had and where they came up, and where we can fix them. You know, what things we can do differently to make sure we put a better execution on the field, better schematics on the field, whatever that may be, to help us be better than it was on Sunday, because we can't have that. That's not at all acceptable in that regard. So got to find some solutions, and again, it can come a lot of different ways. We're working hard on it today on what we can do differently to help that process out.
That Colt can turn the special teams unit around?
I mean, Colt's played a lot of football in the NFL too. He played for 8 years as a player. He was under one of the best special teams coaches in football, I think, in Darren Simmons in Cincinnati. So he's got the experience and the wherewithal to understand where the special teams issues are. And then you got Anthony Levine in there with him, who also has seen a lot and played a lot under John Harbaugh in Baltimore. So those guys got great special teams experience. They understand what they're looking at and what there is, and we have to do a better job all the way around. But those guys know special teams, and they know what the solutions are, and we have to make sure we implement them and do them, because I think they're good young coaches. But again, they're young coaches too, just like there's a couple of us are, and we have to do a better job all the way around.
So there's Brian Callahan. And Easton, you and I had a conversation, I don't know what day, on the phone about, how difficult it is to look at the offensive line and special teams and for the general public to be like, that's why it sucks, right? Mm-hmm. With offensive line and special teams. There's a lot of nuance that goes into it.
Two hardest things to put your finger on what the issue is, for sure.
In a way, it's because we all know the offensive line can't be 5 fingers. It must be a fist, right? The special teams is the same damn thing. It can't be 11 fingers. It has to be 2 fists plus a finger. That is usually the kicker. So look, that is where it is a different thing, right? It is a one mistake, one player not doing his job could ruin the rest of it. If there are 4 offensive linemen who are doing their job and the right tackle blows, doesn't matter. Quarterback might get sacked. If there is 10 coverage guys doing their job, then it could be the punter missing the kick. It could be one of the coverage unit guys not staying in their lane, not doing their job correctly, and now you give up an explosive return. There are so many things to it, and I don't doubt that Colt Anderson and Anthony Levine know special teams. The guys played a lot of special teams and at the highest of levels. But here's Easton, as I kind of tease the grading the film with the media, and I feel like I know the answer, but I might be wrong. Did anybody flat out ask Brian Callahan yesterday about Colt Anderson's job security or job status? Was it directly asked to the head coach yesterday?
In that press conference, no, it was not asked.
Which is kind of crazy, because I'm going to play the Paul Kaharski question from post-game. And from this Sunday. Was from Sunday, from post-game, and we'll kind of dive into this a little further.
Your special teams have been overall horrific today, especially.
Yeah.
What's Colt Anderson done that says he's anything but a guy you were good friends with who might be over his head and too early in his position?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into all that. That's, obviously we haven't played well enough on special teams, but that's a little bit too much for after a game.
Why?
But look, I think Colt's a good football coach. We haven't played well enough. We haven't coached well enough, so there's really nothing else to say about that.
So I thought, and I talked about this yesterday, I thought Paul Kaharski crossed the line of professional to personal with how he asked that question. Yeah. But I think, and there is no way that Brian Callahan could have answered that question post-game. That's not how the post-game press conferences work, right? But that question.
Yeah, I'm actually on my way to fire him right now, guys.
Yeah, right.
What do you want to say?
That's not how that works. And Paul,
that guy's done. He doesn't know it yet.
But that question, again, was still phrased way too personally, even for a Monday press conference. But I do think it could have been asked. And like Jared Stillman followed up, like, why do you have faith in Colt Anderson to fix it? Because it felt like there was no firing, but it was
That's actually the right way to ask the question.
Yes, but
you don't
like
expect to
there
come
was
from Jared, but there you go.
and somebody said it was insinuated that the media asked, I think Jeffrey, nobody was insinuating they were asking about his job. And Terry McCormick, I thought, asked it correctly. Okay. What was the conversation you had with
Right.
Colt about that is the first question. Correct first question.
Yep.
Put the ball in the coach's court to let him answer it. And he obviously went with it not going to make a change there. And so I think, what would it take for Brian Callahan to seriously consider making a coaching change is a question that could have been asked, because I don't know what else there is to have happened in a football game for the special teams. Like how much worse can it get? Because it took Craig Aukerman to getting Ryan Stonehouse to have like a significant surgery on his plant leg for him to lose his job. So like, what is the next? And that was Mike Vrabel, obviously holding on to Craig Aukerman for too long that led to that. But like, what else is it going to take? And I think that's where I am disappointed this morning that there was not the move made. There was not the move made. Then there was also not the question that was directly asked is the interesting thing.
Sure. And I think that's a totally fair question to ask is, if not now, then when, right? What would it theoretically take for this guy to be fired? So in terms of why we didn't ask explicitly the job security status in that moment, I totally do understand in hindsight wishing that it had been asked, but it definitely was one of those things where everybody in the room understood what was happening. And so, that was inferred by everybody that, okay, he's not firing the guy. Got it. Or at least he's not telling us right now. So, if we want to dive into what we think it would take, we can go there.
We can let's pun intended punt that question for the time being, because I do think that's a natural follow-up here in a bit. So I do think, look, I think this is a question that I think we're going to ask here, and we've got more video to come, because we're going to ask who is most to blame for this special teams catastrophe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a lot of things to share. Where do you want us to start here?
You're right. So
you steer the ship.
I'm going to flat out, I'm going to go ahead and post the comment, the question in the comments. Who is most to blame for the Titans special teams catastrophe? We have another video to play, and then we'll get to all of your answers. We'll do that here momentarily, but first I want to tell you guys all about our friends at the Bone & Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who you can trust and who you can turn to. And for me, it has been a couple times with a plantar fasciitis in my foot that's painful and annoying, as well as knee tendonitis, same leg, damn it. I just realized that. But the Bone & Joint Institute has helped me with those two injuries, manage those injuries at home, not have to go spend more time in physical therapy or in doctor's offices, because the Bone & Joint Institute has the best for me in their mind, and they can do the same thing for you regardless of what that injury is. Maybe you do need a surgery. Maybe you got a lingering issue from your youth that you need to finally get fixed or continue to deteriorate with your growing age. That happens in life, just like it does in football. Know the experts to trust and who to turn to in Franklin off I-65 at Highway 96, right next to Williamson Medical Center, or book an appointment online, boneandjointtn.org.
We're also brought to you by BetMGM, an official partner of the Tennessee Titans. Sign up today using our bonus code ATOZ Sports and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win on your first bet. Whether you're cheering on the Titans at the stadium or watching the game at your favorite Music City sports bar, you're always going to be in on the action, because that BetMGM app is right in the palm of your hand. Nothing better than a Titans win, except perhaps the thrill of winning at BetMGM. Enjoy the best parlay selection options, boosted odds specials, daily promotions, and so much more. Download that BetMGM app today. Sign up using code ATOZ Sports and experience the football season like never before. BetMGM, an official partner of the Tennessee Titans.
All right, so we've already put the question in the chat, and it is who's most to blame for the Titans special teams catastrophe. I want to play another video from Brian Callahan's press conference. This was, I believe, 3 questions in a row after we watched film together Brian Callahan and Colt Anderson watching film together and how it's not acceptable. Here is the next string of questions from the Titans media and head coach Brian Callahan.
Some issues maybe with hang time and also tackling, absolutely. What can you do to fix that? Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think we need to do a better job. I think Stoney can do a better job of putting the ball in the air longer, give us a chance to cover, because the reality of it is we made some personnel changes on that punt unit after the block punts early in the season, try to settle it down, which we've done. They've done a really nice job protecting the punter, but we've sacrificed a little bit of speed and coverage ability with some of the bigger bodies in there to protect the punter. And when you do that, the ball's got to hang up further, and we have to have a chance to get down the field and cover. Obviously we're down some gunners because those guys are now, playing more football for us with Nick Westbrook, and Jarvis was one of the gunners too. And, so we got to do a better job of complementing each other in each phase of the punt unit. And right now we're not doing a good enough job of that. Our hang time, I think, is averaging somewhere around 4.0, which has got to be higher than that, and to give ourselves a chance.
Get starters. Do you need to get more starters involved in that unit?
Yeah, we'll look at that. I mean, all three tight ends are on a unit. Some guys we have that have started are on there, but yeah, we'll look at that. Certainly, if that's an avenue to help improve it, we'll improve it. And if we feel like that can get us a better coverage unit, then certainly we'll ask those guys to play.
Does that hang time become maybe even more of an issue when a guy like Stone has kicked it as far as he does? Does that actually maybe hurt when the hang time?
Right now, it is hurting us. Yes, I mean some of the punts that we've had where it gets down the field and it goes long down the field, but it doesn't hang up in the air and give us enough time to get down there to cover, puts us in a tough spot. And then our fundamentals of it got to be better too. We were in position yesterday. The first punt return should have never got out. We should have been able to get them on the ground, and we don't. Because we miss a tackle or two, and then all of a sudden you miss 2 tackles and a punt return, and in the NFL it's out. And so we got to be better there fundamentally, and then we can find some ways personnel-wise to help us. And then there's some things schematically we can do to help our guys as well. So look, it's an all-hands-on-deck approach to getting solutions to some of our issues. And again, we've fixed previous issues, and now other issues are showing up that we have to find a way to get better at quickly, because again, we can't give up the return yards that we gave up.
262 return yards, 72 of them on 1 kick return, 190 on 5 punt returns. So real quick, because we're going to get to all of your answers on who's most to blame for this catastrophe. And I did put up a YouTube poll. Clint on Facebook says special teams is not the reason why the Titans are on a losing streak. Correct. But I think and against Detroit, special teams ruined the chance for them to do anything in that game, right? Because you don't even have a chance to evaluate the defense or to evaluate the entire thing. There was no opportunity to really fight through and to overcome any type of adversity to try to get a damn stop. You sacked Jared Goff 4 times and they barely had the football, like outside of the red zone. So
Austin, there have been 6 games this year where a team has been beat by 30 or more points. Here's the offensive output differential. So just the difference in total offense, not special teams, offensive yards in those games, right? Cardinals in week 2, 244 more yards than the Rams. Commanders in week 7, 241 more yards than the Panthers. Lions in week 6, 241 more yards than the Cowboys. Saints in week 1, 186 more yards than the Panthers. Bills in week 3, 149 more yards than the Jaguars. And then the Lions in week 8 against the Titans, 191 less yards than the Titans. Not even remotely similar.
That's like
the
300
Lions'
yards
entire offense was special teams. Their offense didn't exist.
Yeah, but their offense got,
It didn't have to exist.
Yeah, like you talk about like being born on third base. Like that is
dude.
You talk about like privilege. The Lions
they were born diving into home. They were long past third base.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were. So all right, so let's go to the chat here. And I did put up a YouTube poll. So East, I'm gonna see if you can scroll back up towards the top of the chat. And Yamahama asks, why is the media always so quiet? It's because of how the microphones are set up there. It's not the media actually being quiet.
Trust me, some of these cats are not being quiet in there. We are screaming things on days like yesterday.
All right, so who is most to blame for the Titans special teams catastrophe? I will let you head to the comment section. Let's see where everybody's at right now.
Yeah, Demetrius starts us off here by saying, is Colt Anderson most to blame? Charlie thinks it's generally the coaches. Brandon, players not executing. So we're kind of covering all three bases with our first three questions here. Rand Carthon cutting every special teams ace on the team except for Luke Gifford, Slade says. Front office, according to John McDaniels. Colt Anderson, period, according to Corey. Let's see here. Callahan at this point, according to Mario. Starts with coaching, says Alex. Blocking from our Hoshi, head coach Mark D. So, man, we're all over the place. Seeing a lot of coaching, seeing more, in fact, seeing mostly coaching and front office. Very little blame on the players from the chat this morning. Some, but not much.
Anthony says, look, guys, I'm sorry, but special teams was bad, but this team has so many problems. It doesn't matter what the major cause for loss last week. It's something different every week, and it's garbage. Well, and you know, Arden Key said, no, it's the same thing every week. It's the same thing every week, that they're good until they completely unravel and have no opportunity to come back from it. Again, the Titans have had a tie or a lead at halftime in 5 out of their 7 games. And the 2 times they didn't were the Packers in this game, because, you know, it's not because the offense was doing a good job. Outside of 2 interceptions, they had a chance to make it something, but the special teams was not allowing anything of that to happen.
Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, and this team gets punched in the face and they do not get back up.
No, they don't. They cry back into their corner, it feels like. And all right, so my answer in weeks 1 and 2, in week 1, it was the player's fault.
Right? We're talking special teams blame.
Special teams. Yeah. In week 1, it was the player's fault.
Okay.
Since then, it's the coaches.
Okay.
And I think now, and Sam wrote an article yesterday. If you missed it, go check it out. A2Zsports.com/Titans. That's where you find everything. That Brian Callahan drew a line in the sand. And to me, that line in the sand right now is that everything moving forward is no longer Colt Anderson's fault. It is now Brian Callahan's fault, because because he decided to
disagree on that.
Okay, that's fine. You can disagree, but he decided to keep it status quo. Look, he's not going to stop coaching, but now it is Brian Callahan has taken the responsibility after they've played 7 games, right? They're 1-6. There are so many problems with this team, but special teams is a massive one. There's no doubt. That's why we are leading off a Tuesday show talking about a 1-6 team and special teams, because they did not fire the special teams coordinator. It is now the head coach's problem, because he can't. Where else is he going to point? Because he's done everything else. He says they've changed personnel. They've watched the film together. That was Nick Holtz holding an offensive team meeting, right? Same thing. Excuse me, got tickled. But so it is now, the line is drawn in the sand. It is now up to Brian Callahan to use his authority as the head coach to enforce the change that has to happen. Whether it's the players not executing, the coaches not drawing up or given the right details that need to be executed, it is now up to Brian Callahan to use that authority as the head coach to make sure that it does change and it does get better moving forward. That's why moving forward, it's Brian Callahan.
Yeah, so I guess before I give my answer, to address what you've said, I think you and it sounds like Sam, I haven't had a chance to read the article yet myself. It sounds like you guys have misdiagnosed the message being sent.
Okay.
And I'll just say this, based on conversations that I have had. This is not my opinion. This is just the reality of the way that this organization, this staff feels. Unless it wasn't, in case it was not already obvious, they are not firing Colt Anderson this week.
No.
They are not firing him or anybody this season, barring, a DUI or, something extraneous.
Off the field, yeah.
Right. Or just something, something beyond the pale on the field. There's always
like Ryan Stonehouse getting his knee shredded.
Right. Maybe that would be it. I don't know. But generally speaking, barring anything truly insane, they're not going to be making those decisions in season. Now, the message that they're sending there is not, it's never the coach's fault. They're not making, this is not excuse making on Brian Callahan or anybody else's part, not firing people. they take the stance that in-season firings reek of dysfunction. And you can agree or disagree with that. I think historically, you look at teams that fire coaches in season, more often than not, it is a dysfunctional situation. More often than not, it is scapegoating more than anything. You look at the Jets and what's been going on right now, not a whole lot of functionality to that whole situation and the firings they've had midseason. I understand entirely. I mean, people listen to me post game saying that I too wanted Brian Callahan to fire Colt Anderson.
Yeah.
We all in the moment want blood. That's the nature of our sports culture right now. Is we want to see a head roll to feel better, to affect change. But that's really the question I want to pose to people this morning in a moment. But let me answer the question first.
Because that what you said is not your answer. That
Correct.
is what the building feels, is that firing a coach in season is showing signs of dysfunction, right? That is what you have heard.
That is what I've heard. And also just, the rhetorical question, rhetorical, that's not what's the word I'm looking for? What is it when you ask a question, but it's not meant to be answered?
Yeah. Rhetorical.
Oh, it is rhetorical.
Yeah, you're right.
Tired this morning. The rhetorical question that's been posed to me is, fire them and do what? Promote somebody else? Hire a special teams coordinator in week 8? What exactly?
Yeah.
What's that going to do? And I want to unpack what that's going to do in a minute. But let me answer the question first. But my point there is that I think if your diagnosis of him not firing Colt Anderson this week is that they don't think it's the coach's fault, I don't just think that's not true. I know that's not true. I have heard firsthand that is not the case. They just don't. That's just not the way that they want to roll. At the end of the year, all those decisions and evaluations will be made, and they'll go from there. Now, my answer to the question as to who is most to blame for the special teams woes this season, I've done a lot of thinking, actually mostly thinking on this since Sunday, and I've changed my mind a couple times on a couple different things. My answer is the players most to blame.
Okay.
And that's not to say that the coaches don't share blame. They absolutely do. Everybody involved here shares a lot of blame for this. But I was talking with you in the post-game show on Sunday just about the cognitive dissonance for the way that I, just generally people can tell by listening to the show, the way that I approach evaluating and critiquing NFL teams is I tend not to blame coaches for the sins of their players. When it's simple execution on the field in a moment, in a vacuum, I blame the player for that much more than I blame the coach. And that's a hard thing for, you talk about being unable to put your finger on something. This is a dance we do in sports media and as fans all the time, is trying to figure out how much blame to assign to who. Because at the end of the day, the coaches can't make the players do certain things. Brian Callahan can't physically control the decision-making of Will Levis on a given play. But over the span of a season, he is directly influencing that. So he does have a secondhand effect there. And what I've come down on, this is not a perfect answer, but it's the best answer I have in terms of determining how to assign blame. I think that you hear it starts and ends with the coach, and that's true. It does. But the execution in any given moment, on any given play, is on the player. And so if execution issues persist for over a sample size, and there is no trending in the right direction, I think that is when it's ultimately a reflection on a coach. In a given moment, in a given play, in a given game, the execution of a single player is on the player, right? And so if Aaron Rodgers in week 9 just decides to have a horrible game when he's having an otherwise a great season, which he's not this year, but
Josh Allen 9 for 30 against the Texans, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's not on his coaching that week. That's on the players. The player didn't have a good game. That's execution. Right. So I think in a vacuum, it's on the player. Over a sample size of multiple games or a season or whatever it is, it's on the coaches. And the coach's job is to trend in the right direction. And so then we come to, okay, well, the Titans special team has been a problem all year. So is that not on the coaches?
Right.
That's where I got as well. And then I did some digging yesterday into what the Titans special teams problems really are. And I went back and I re-listened to the question that we just heard from Brian Callahan. And he didn't really emphasize it in the moment. but it stuck out to me upon second listen. The Titans haven't really had one special teams issue this year. They've had two. They've had two very different issues. They've both been big issues that have directly impacted games, but they've had one issue on the front half of the season, and they've now had the season so far, and a second issue on the back half. Before the bye, the pre-bye special teams issue was punt protection, right? It was two punts blocked and a third really, really nearly blocked.
Yeah.
And that was an issue where we were able to identify individual guys like, hey, Jack Gibbons just got blown up and he got beat one-on-one. Hey, Julius Chestnut left early and he got beat one-on-one. And you heard in that answer, he kind of slid it in there, but Brian Callahan said, we addressed those issues by changing the personnel. If you go back and you look at the tape recently, post-bye, Jack Gibbons is not in there on punt protection. Julius Chestnut is not in there on punt protection. They've replaced those guys with Jalen Harrell, I think, is in there. Jalen Harrell's in there, and then the tight ends have gotten in there, right? Nick Vanette has been in there as well. And the punt protection post-bye, they have fixed that. It has been good.
Right.
But you know, Zach Lyons used this analogy on the radio yesterday on 104.5. The Titans very much have a like cartoon plugging holes in a ship with your finger, and then another one pops out. You got to plug it with your toe. Yep. That's the situation for them on special teams right now, where the punt protection has been fixed, but now the coverage is a disaster. And post-bye, the coverage has been their problem. And again, Brian Callahan in that answer, he kind of slipped it in there, but upon second listen, you can hear him talk about how the quality of our personnel on punt coverage has decreased because the guys that we had playing on punt coverage to begin the year are now having to play meaningful snaps on offense or defense. And the Gunners in particular have gotten slow, and that's been a problem for them. And he essentially said it in that answer. They started the season with NWI and Brownlee as the Gunners. And now those guys are playing nearly starting snaps.
They're both starters.
Yes. Right. They're both starters at this point. And so now it is Trey Avery and Gabe Judy-Lawley as Gunners, and the quality dip there is significant. The other thing that he points out there, and he says it plain as day twice, he says in the initial answer, and then somebody followed up, is the punt issue, is the punt hang time a problem? He's like, it's hurting us. It is. And I like Ryan Stonehouse a lot. I think he's an awesome punter. Sorry, Stoney. He's a big problem for this team right now. And, you know, you talk about a 4-second hang time. If you just go, simple Google searches can tell you that's not acceptable. You can't do that in the NFL. Right now, he seems to be hunting distance and hunting monster punts and bucking the idea of being a directional punter. And he's out kicking his coverage. Especially with slow Gunners, he cannot continue to kick the way that he is, line drives without any hang time, giving his slow Gunners time to get downfield and them have success. And so, I think it is a personnel issue. And as much as I think Colt Anderson looks horrible here, the optics of this are bad. That was kind of the question I asked myself, and you and I were talking about yesterday on Monday. I was tweeting about this, like, what would be the point of firing him besides the optics? Because obviously, optically, you feel like you have to, right?
Yeah,
and I'll stop ranting if you have a follow-up.
No, for sure. I've got a lot of things to follow up with. Because I don't like you're throwing out logical stuff. I agree with the thought process, but it's just about how come it's not being fixed.
Sure.
So let's get to that here in a second, because I have a lot of thoughts on Stonehouse, on the personnel, on the coaching, on the sustained issue that is the trying to plug the holes in the boat floor with all the different appendages, right? So let's get to the more of that. But first, Farm Bureau Health Plan, that's where you should turn. Everybody needs a sound health coverage plan for their family, for you, whatever your situation may be. And this is not something that you have to be plugging holes with your fingers with your health coverage. With Farm Bureau Health Plans, they have been serving Tennesseans for over 78 years, and they're pros at it. They know exactly how to help you out, regardless of your life stage, regardless of your situation, how difficult it may be or how simple it may be. Don't pay for what you don't need. So Farm Bureau Health Plans will help you out. Get a quote today. Zach Bingham saved 20% a month on his health coverage a couple of years ago when his situation was single at the time, entrepreneur, had to go find it elsewhere. Farm Bureau Health Plans was there to help him out quite a bit. They can do the same thing for you. So many different situations with Farm Bureau Health Plans. They invest in the state. They invest in the sports teams, pro, college, and youth here across the state as well. Get book an appointment today and also get a quote today by visiting our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
We're also brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. Use our bonus code ATOZ Sports today when you sign up on that BetMGM app, and they're going to give you up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. Austin, the Tennessee Titans are favorites in Week 9 in the year of our Lord 2024. Who'd have thunk it? It helps when you are at home facing the Patriots with Jacoby Brissett at the helm. That is like one of, I don't know, 3 situations in which they'd be a favorite right now, I feel like. If you are so inclined to back the Titans as favorites, which, I don't know if I would recommend that, but if that's you, go use our bonus code ATOZ Sports at betmgm.com, the sports book born in Vegas.
All right. So you brought up several things in that.
I kind of dumped all that on you. I'm sorry.
No,
So we can address it point
fine.
by point.
So there's a lot of issues here. And so Brian Callahan was also asked a question that we've talked about off air and on air a couple times about players that were cut at the end of training camp that were special teamers. And if Brian Callahan regretted or was looking back at some of those players that they could have helped. So here's that back and forth.
Do you have any measure of regret about letting loose some of those core special teamers when it came to personnel decisions on cut day?
No, I mean, really, there was maybe one. Who would you be referring to? Just
Hassan or Matt Jackson or some of these guys that took a lot of Anthony Kendall, special teams reps the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, we had Anthony Kendall on the practice squad we were trying to get to a point where maybe he was healthy, but then our roster moves and we had to make some moves to do some other things. But yeah, I mean, there's a place for those special teams guys on your roster, and we felt like we had enough of them at the cut down date and felt good about where we were at. And right now it's just not been good enough. So we can look back in hindsight and that might have helped, might not have. I'm not sure. But right now we are where we are, and we got to find a way to get it corrected.
The results are in. They did not have enough special teams guys on the roster out of camp because they have been atrocious since week 1. So that is, I put up the poll on YouTube. Who is most to blame for the Titans special teams catastrophe? Colt Anderson, the players, Brian Callahan, or Rand Carthon? I added Rand Carthon on there because he played a part in the cutting of Hassan Haskins, the cutting of a couple of these other guys that were core special teamers a year ago. So Rand Carthon deserves to be a part of the conversation because he and Brian Callahan, do the whole collaboration aspect of the roster management. So I'm
really pleased to see that the chat is, I think we're all in agreement on this. And I was worried I was going to have to come in and argue this today, but I think we're all there that this, in hindsight, was a poor roster construction on the back end.
It was, but that's also not why it's still bad approaching Halloween.
It's part of it.
Yes,
if you're
but
like what I just said about them having guys have to become starters and then the guys behind them are not, like, the names that Nick Suss, credit to him. I was going to ask this question yesterday. He beat me to it, and I'm glad that he did. And I'm glad I was worried that somebody would ask it, and then because you knew Brian Callahan was going to say, okay, who, and then not have a list of names. Nick is like the perfect guy to ask this because he's just encyclopedia up here. He just reeled off names. And so you heard him talk about Haskins and Matt Jackson, and somebody he didn't mention is Kendall, and then somebody he didn't mention is like Guerrer, for example. These guys that have had a lot of special team snaps and their skill set is kind of tailored to play special teams. And I have to hand up on this. Like, it was not like I was beating the drum at the time of roster cut down. Like, oh, this is going to be a problem for him. Like, I didn't see it either. So,
well, I saw Chestnut over Haskins all day long. That's what I said too.
Right. And I felt like it was the decisions they made. I agreed with. They basically built this team in with, special teams will figure that out. Don't worry about it. Let's get the best players in mind. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I liked that.
Block punt, you lose the game by 7.
It didn't work in a hurry. Right? But like, that's the kind of thing where, Hassan Haskins is in there instead of Julius Chestnut on punt protection. He's not messing that up. Like, he was the special teams demon as branded by Mike Vrabel. Matt Jackson is a much more talented gunner than a Gabe Judy-Lawley is.
Him a demon.
Oh, did he really? Okay, as everybody, yeah. And Gabe Judy-Lawley is not as good a gunner as Matt Jackson is, for example, and Anthony Kendall has experience doing that. So, like, those things are what's hurting them, is that the back end of this team was not designed with special teams in mind, and I think it's showing.
So, correct. So here's my other thing too, because it does feel like in Brian Callahan's long video that we played, it does feel like Ryan Stonehouse is being pointed at by the building right now.
Oh, 100%.
Ryan Stonehouse is being blamed by people that are employed by the
primarily. Right now, I think that they consider him to be their biggest problem.
Which here's my problem with that.
Okay.
That's the coach's fault. Do something about it. This is not like he hasn't just like this is something that Ryan Stonehouse has had a problem with. Brett Kern lost his job in Denver for this exact same reason. In 2000,
I think he was on the radio talking about it yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. And Brett Kern, and I didn't even hear that, but Brett Kern lost his job in Denver for that. He came here and he figured it out. When Brett Kern lost his job to Ryan Stonehouse, it was the correct move because it was a decade looking forward move, not a 2022 decision.
Mhm.
But Brett Kern talked about this on Radio Pass, and we've heard Stoney talk about this of like he's got to learn the nuances of being a punter. Like it's not just about booming the ball as far as you possibly can. There's directional kicking. You have different clubs in your bag, just like you do at golf. And right now, Ryan Stonehouse is struggling with that.
Mhm.
There's also, how many times have the Titans punted the ball out of bounds this year, Easton?
Oh, man. One or none.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero times they have punted the ball out of bounds.
No, he's not directionally kicking at all.
So whose fault is that?
So I get
it has to be the coaches.
I get your point.
Seven games have been played, guys.
Austin, I know, and I get what you're
them
saying.
Do something. Ryan Stonehouse has bosses. It is Colt Anderson, Anthony Levine, and Brian Callahan. Tell his ass to do something different.
But do you really think they haven't? Do you really think they haven't?
Why isn't he doing it then?
I don't know. I think they don't know.
So
I think they're frustrated because they're
bench him for a game.
He's not replaceable. There's no.
Yes, he is.
At the moment, you have to go find somebody.
Okay, sign a guy to the practice squad. Who cares?
And you may be at that point.
Sign a guy to the practice squad, elevate him, make Ryan Stonehouse inactive, have this guy go punt the ball out of bounds and tell him, do you want to come and play again? Do you want your game check? Like, he's got to get his game check regardless. But do you want to come play? Do you want to come play? Because this guy did what we told him to do. He punted the ball out of bounds. He directionally kicked it. He got more hang time, whatever the hell it is. You have to do something to manage this guy. Because you are his boss. Mm-hmm. He is your employee. You have to tell, if he's doing this, if out kicking his coverage and punting the ball 85 yards down the field, and now you have slow gunners, and so you have to adjust, then make him adjust. That is what your job is as the coach. So Ryan Stonehouse's problems are the coach's problems. Do something about it.
I get it. I do. And Nick asking, does UPS have somebody we can borrow to punt again? Perhaps.
That was FedEx. But.
Yeah, come on, man. Anthony says, so Easton, your argument is the coaches are telling Ryan to kick it out of bounds and he isn't capable of doing that. LOL. So now can't. So this is my point, Austin, is that the frustration from the coaches at this point sounds an awful lot like a group of people that are asking the same questions we're asking, namely, why is he not doing this? I'm with you that it's on the coaches to get him to do that. But again, they can't physically force him to do it. And it seems like they're asking him to do it and he's not doing it. And this may be a wake up call point for him. Because
So because you asked me a question like earlier, what would firing Colt Anderson have done? Like what are you going to get out of it, right? Midseason.
Sure.
It's consequences, right? Because right now,
a demonstration of consequences, you mean?
Yes. How many consequences have there been for the Titans special teams mishaps? Has Jack Gibbons been inactive for a football game because he couldn't protect Ryan Stonehouse?
He's
no.
Taken off of teams and on the bench the entire
but he's
game.
He's still playing, right?
But in those games he wasn't before he had to start. Like when he was playing punt protection, that's all he was doing because he was a backup linebacker. And then they benched him and he was just on the bench all game. So I get your point.
He was wearing clothes. He was still dressed out, right? He wasn't NPF consequence. Yes. The NPF has consequences.
But you have to have him dressed because he's your third linebacker.
Well, tough. He's not doing anything. What was he doing? So again, Julius Chestnut.
Now he's playing games,
right? And now Julius Chestnut has to be out there because Tajay.
Exactly. That's why you can't inactivate those guys.
No consequences. So I'm like, honestly, if Colt Anderson got fired, then now everybody sees that there are consequences for their mistakes, a guy's job. That is the message it sends because I don't know, but what it sounds like is that they're frustrated that Ryan Stonehouse is kicking the ball too far and not high enough. Mm-hmm. And so what are they doing to direct Ryan Stonehouse to coach Ryan Stonehouse to do the correct things for the team.
The good news is we get to ask this question tomorrow. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of questions for Ryan Stonehouse in the locker room tomorrow. But as Slade says here in the comments, you're assuming the coaches are asking him to do it. They've never said that they asked for that, though. I understand they never said it explicitly, but do you really think Brian Callahan is coming to the podium and throwing his punter under the bus on a Monday morning in frustration, saying he's a problem for us? The distance and lack of hang time is hurting us. Do you think he's saying all that if he's never asked him, like, hey, can you like, that doesn't make any sense. I think the logical thing here is I'm frustrated because we've asked him to do this. He's not doing it, and we don't know what's up.
So there's two options here. It's either not being coached or it's being allowed. That's it.
Right. Sure.
That's it. It's as simple as that. It's either not
right.
being
And
coached
I think
or they're allowing it.
I think one of those things is obviously not true. Like, I think there's no world in which they're just not coaching him to punt directionally. They obviously are, and he's not doing it, and they're frustrated. And so at the moment, it's being allowed. So what are you going to do about it? Is your point?
Yes.
I mean, you got to do something about it. Got to.
Yeah, that's it. It's down to those two things. And
people are saying it's still an assumption. Yeah, but it's like
it's
I think it's completely logical. If you really think that they are furious at their punter for not doing something, but this entire time for the past month they've not mentioned it to him, I think you're crazy.
Because then that is grounds for firing.
You want to talk about dysfunction. You want to talk about being a terrible coach. You're just hoping your players can read your mind? No, it's not happening.
Right.
It's not happening.
Whew. Okay. Let's see. Do we have anything else?
People are saying you think you can't. No, I'm not saying Ryan Stonehouse can't kick the ball out of bounds, that he can't kick directionally. He's a very good punter. I know.
Here's the thing. Ryan Stonehouse can kick it so far and out of bounds at the same time.
We've seen him do it. Whole rookie year. We've seen him do it. So, and then he got hurt, and now I do wonder, like, psychologically, this is me really maybe reaching, but he gets hurt, he comes back. His rookie year, he establishes the brand of being like the monster leg, the cannon leg, the distance guy. I'm wondering if, like, maybe he's at 90% the power he used to have, and he's like really dialed in and pressing with the power and compensating and like wanting to maintain those numbers and sacrificing I don't know. I don't know where he's at mentally.
Could be, but that's not helping his team right now. It's hurting his team.
It's hurting
according to the head coach. And that's not how you don't, like, if the shot's not going down, then go box out some guys and rebound. Like, you've got to adjust and figure out how you can help your team if you're struggling in an area that you're usually not struggling at. And that is where I feel like the coaching is not doing a good enough job of holding the players accountable and making sure they execute the plan. Because as you said, you laid it out perfectly.
That's the blame on them for sure. Yeah, they are blamed for that.
Is that the plan has to be executed. If they continuously cannot execute the plan, then the plan is not good.
Right.
Because a plan is only good if it's able to be executed by the people that you have.
Right.
That is a problem.
But Austin, if we're looking at the actual results, that's the reason why I'm not putting the brunt of the blame on the coaching, because it's not like the Titans have had that return issue that they just had Detroit for 2 or 3 or 4.
I don't know, man. What happened against the Chicago Bears? They gave up a big kick return. They allowed the Bears to have 3 free points. It has been.
Yes, there was a bad play in that game in week 1, but like that wasn't a recurrent. Even the best special teams just allow a big return every once in a while. That was an isolated issue until post bye, and then post bye it started to become like, if you just go look game by game, it became a recurring issue post bye, and you saw a little bit in Indianapolis, and you saw a couple, including a touchdown in Buffalo, and then in Detroit the dam broke, and it's everything came spilling out. And so I think this is the inflection point where it's like,
the problem, though.
This is where the coaching staff has to put their foot down, because if you allow this to continue, then it is 100% on you as a coaching staff. This is the week for me.
I disagree, because the Titans have had a bye, so they've only played 7 games.
Right.
Let's remove the 190 yards of punt return from Cleve Raymond there.
So
if you remove those yards, the Titans have given up the third most punt return yards in the NFL.
It's not been good.
If you remove the big game, because right now they're first. They've given up 454 punt return yards in 7 games. The Patriots are second. Shout out Jaquan Jackson. You got an opportunity this week, bud. They've given up 312. So there's 132 yards of difference between the Titans and the Patriots, the worst 2 punt return allowed teams in the league. The Browns are 280. So if you remove 190 yards, you're still 3rd in the NFL. It has been a problem the entire year. It has not been what we saw on Sunday, but it has been a problem all
What's
year.
the number again? 3 what?
454 punt return yards in 7 games.
Including Khalif Raymond's game?
Including Khalif Raymond.
So without him, like in the 330s or something? Or the 300, like right 300 flat, something like that?
264.
264. Yeah, I mean, I want to go. I want to go back and look now.
Third most.
But how much?
And that's just 6 games.
I know. I mean, maybe I'm crazy. Isn't that mostly just 2 punt returns? Isn't that pretty much week 1 and the touchdown return in Buffalo? Like of those 262, I feel like 3/4 of that is 2 returns.
I mean, they've given up like some 15-yarders. Like,
yeah, it's not been an elite unit. I'm not saying it's been awesome otherwise. I'm just saying I think it has been just recently a recurring issue. And before that, if you're taking out last week, I think you're including the second worst week, which was against Buffalo. Like it has been a growing issue the last 3 games.
They've also had punts blocked, so you can't even return those.
Unreturned, that's right. That's what? Can't get return yardage if you just don't punt the ball.
And by the way, 10 other NFL teams have punted more than the Titans have.
That's crazy.
But the Titans opponents
actually it's not crazy because the Titans keep winning the time of possession in these games and they lose anyways. So like they're not going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. They're not.
Opponents have returned more Titans punts than any other team.
Wait,
so they've allowed more returns. Opponents have returned more punts against the Titans have allowed just more return opportunities
as opposed to just fair catches. Yeah, I mean it's because they have
and they haven't kicked out of bounds.
Out of bounds, right? It's because they have a punter that's not kicking out of bounds. He's out kicking his coverage, and their gunners have gotten increasingly slower over the weeks.
So coach it differently. Tell him to do something else, and if he's not doing it, fire him for a game.
We agree. We agree.
Yeah.
We agree. I think this is the week where you have to get on it. You have to.
TVC, lock in, like the show. Amnesia says, we really need the what the F are you doing Callahan back. The software guy isn't doing anything. Spark a fire under him. So go back to week 2, barking at Will Levis version of Brian Callahan. That's fine.
Oh, you guys should. I'll post it later. I went back and compiled all of the return yards from that game against on the tape, and it's all 22. And I'll go back and zoom in on Brian Callahan on the sideline. He's not just standing.
Yeah,
he's not just standing there. Trust me, he's not just standing there.
All right, let's get into something real quick about the Detroit Lions because Dan Campbell was acting like a schoolgirl when asked about the trade potential coming up. So let's get you guys involved on this. We'll ask you guys a question. If the Titans do trade a player to the Lions, what's your prediction? Who would it be? But real quick, let me tell you guys about our great friends at TDOT. They can you can help them in littering across the state of Tennessee. There's over 88 million pieces of litter on our roadways. And TDOT invests so much money, $23 million a year, to help clean up our roadways, to keep our state beautiful. We can all pitch in to help out and keep Tennessee beautiful by joining local cleanups at nobodytrashestennessee.com. You can also become a trash master today by signing up for rewards points, and you can get event credits on tickets, all types of things with becoming a trash master with signing up at nobodytrashestennessee.com. It's a great way to get your kids involved for local cleanups too, to give them some volunteer experience for their growth moving forward. Once again, get a part of the action at nobodytrashestennessee.com.
And you can experience the football season like never before with BetMGM, our partners here on the A to Z Morning Show. Use our bonus code ATOZ Sports today when you sign up on the BetMGM app. They're going to give you up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas.
All right, so let's play this clip. And I did ask you guys the question: if the Titans do trade with the Lions, what's your prediction? Who would it be? But here's Dan Campbell at his press conference on Monday.
You don't feel there's anything imminent on the trade front, like in the next 24 hours? Nothing that Brad's come to you with?
Yeah, it could be.
Could be.
Yeah, could be.
What did you think of Muhammad yesterday?
No, seriously though, has he come to you with something that you?
Yeah, it could be.
I love Dan Campbell.
That is a guy who is, I mean,
Could be.
I mean, he is literally feeling himself right now. I mean,
Yeah, he is. It's true. As he should be.
Right. But that, I don't think I've ever seen a head coach that giddy before in a situation. But I mean, they are trying to go for this damn thing, right? Like the Detroit Lions can see a Super Bowl appearance in their future. So if the Titans and Lions trade, who are the Titans going to be sending to the Lions? What's your prediction on who that could be? Easton,
Ryan Stonehouse.
Yeah, Ryan Stonehouse. No, because the Lions punter is pretty damn good too.
He is.
Overall. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in Jameson says Keir Landry. Daniel says Keir Landry. Slade says Arden Key after Sunday. Corey says Arden Key. Adrenaline Key. I've never heard that before.
Such a good name, Adrenaline Key. He had it in that game against the Lions. Looked like he was auditioning.
Man, that is so close to like his actual name.
I know.
Mario says Landry. Dad of the Bone says Key. Brandon says Landry. So it's either Landry or Arden Key.
Got to be, right? Got to be.
Which of the two do you think is the guy, Easton?
I don't know, Austin, because teams sometimes are funny. And front offices are sometimes funny, and sometimes their decisions are disproportionately affected by playing in the game. You know what I mean? Like, there's always guys at the end of the preseason where it's like this team claimed him off waivers because he happened to have 3 sacks against them in a preseason game.
Yeah.
And so before this game against the Lions, I'd say surely they want Harold Landry. Like, he's a starting caliber edge in the NFL. But after that game where Harold Landry was literally so invisible that you and I after the game were like, did he play? Like, did he play the fourth quarter? Were they holding him out?
Full disclosure, I asked Easton, hey, can we look at the usage for Harold Landry? Like, did he pull a DeAndre Hopkins in the fourth quarter of that game? And the answer is no. He just
I went back play by play. He played all 3 Lions series in the fourth quarter. He was just, there. Now, to be fair to Harold Landry, he's facing Penei Sewell, who is an awesome, incredible player.
Yeah,
so
it's Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah. But so that's going to happen to even the best pass rushers. But man, I'm not sure he got close to the quarterback all day. Arden Key got on the quarterback a couple times in that game, including the first play from scrimmage for the defense. Came out of nowhere, bat out of hell. You and I just got off the pregame show and we both text each other immediately like, holy cow, Arden Key. Hello, good morning. So I don't know. I would have said Landry before. Now, because here's the context for what would make Landry hard is they don't have a 3rd round pick. The Lions don't.
Yeah.
And Harold Landry just this season, I think the Titans would be fools to move him for anything less than a day 2 pick. So that's a 2 or a 3. I don't think you're getting a 2 for him. If you can find one, fantastic, take it and run. But I think a 3rd round pick is the fair compensation there. The Lions don't have one. So that makes it tricky. With Arden Key, that's not a day 2 pick. And his contract situation is very palatable. And to expire, is he expiring?
One more. Arden Key's got one more year.
Okay.
I want to say it's like under $7 million. None of it's guaranteed.
Right. So very palatable 1 year, 2 year rental for Arden Key. You could probably get him for, and I'm guesstimating here, I don't know, 5th round pick, something like that, 5th or 6th. This sounds about right to me. And so, yeah, maybe that's what happens. And I don't know, like that's something that I want to try to get a finger on the pulse of this week in the locker room. Arden Key's somebody that has caught my attention the past couple times that I've seen him in the locker room last week before the game, just listening to him interact with players. And we talked to him and it just, he's a guy that seems like he's in an interesting headspace. And in the post game on Sunday, he seemed like a guy that was, even after a big game for him individually, kind of checked out a little bit, wants to do some more winning. So I don't know what the relationship is with the Titans. I don't know what his satisfaction level is. I don't know whether or not they'd be willing to move him, but if it means more draft capital, I think that they should.
Yeah. So Caleb brings this up, and it's something that I think Sam and I talked about this late last week. Harold and a 5th rounder for the Lions 2nd. So that would basically mean, if this is the case, that the Titans would trade both Harold Landry and DeAndre Hopkins for a 2nd round pick.
Right. And by the way, I think this is, I'm not trying to pick on Caleb. I think this is a reflection of people's general misunderstanding of draft pick value. Throwing in a 5th is not anywhere close to enough value to turn a 3rd into a 2nd. It would need to be Harold Landry and a high 4th and maybe like a 4th and a 5th to make, because like teams value second round picks so much more than third round picks. They value first round picks so much more than second round picks. It is exponential. It's not a linear. You just search a draft trade value chart. A second round pick is worth like 350 points. A fifth round pick is worth like 4. It's not. It doesn't mean anything.
I honestly don't feel comfortable with the thought idea of you trade away DeAndre Hopkins and Harold Landry for a second round pick.
It's a lot. It's a lot
for a player.
Right.
Right. That's picked, and that's a pick of that's like the Lions second round pick. So that's like at worst 58th.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not that's not
Devontae at best 58.
That's not Devontae in the 30s. Yeah.
No, that's 58 to 64. If the Lions win the damn Super Bowl, then it's 64.
Right.
Overall. So I think, man,
I don't think that there just logistically is a trade available to them, Landry to the Lions. Now that we're sitting here thinking about it, I don't think it would work. Unless the Lions are just desperate and willing to throw stuff away, and I don't think that they are. I think Brad Holmes is a good GM.
Yeah, but I mean, they only sacked Mason Rudolph once.
There are 30 other teams they can trade.
I know, but I do think that the Lions have to add pass rush because Aiden Hutchinson is not the only injury they're dealing with up front.
No. I saw somebody tweet Austin yesterday, because you've been on this, by the way, the fact that next Tuesday is election day and college football playoff day and trade deadline day.
Just wait to my shade. I found something new.
Okay, I will. But I saw somebody tweet yesterday. I can't wait for next Tuesday when like the fate of the country is in the balance. And I'm tweeting about like it's 2:30 and the Lions still haven't traded for a pass rusher. But listen, like the Chiefs just traded a 2026 6th round pick for a pass rusher from New England whose name is escaping me, but like a talented player.
Oh yeah.
There are options out there that aren't Harold Landry for the Lions, that aren't a Titan for the Lions.
I just think it's crazy. Like Mason Rudolph dropped back. Well, he threw the ball 38 times. He was sacked once, and he ran the ball 4 times. One of them was a sneak. So the other 3 were dropbacks, right? So you're talking about dropping back and throwing the football 42 times, and the Lions got home once.
Uche.
Against
the
Titans.
Listen, Mason Rudolph is a notoriously slippery son of a gun back there. It happens to the best teams.
Right.
It happens to the best of them.
Yeah, he's elite at not getting.
Did you see him shake that guy to score a touchdown?
Big Dave ball energy.
Do you think the league sends you do you get a fine if you get shook out of your boots by Mason Rudolph in 2024 in the NFL? Is that conduct detrimental to the league?
I think that pride is probably enough hurt.
Okay.
All right. So we do have some shade. I've kind of teased my shade. By the way, I do think Arden Key is probably the only option for the Lions to be trading with the Titans.
What would you be comfortable with, by the way? Compensation.
I mean,
anything.
Considering you got a 5th round pick that could be a 4 for DeAndre Hopkins, I think Arden Key is a 6th round pick.
5 or 6. Yeah, I'm with you.
I think it's a 6th. There's no way it's a 5th. If it's
I said 4th earlier, and I'm realizing that was dumb. It's a 5th or a 6th.
Yeah, I think it's a 5th. I'm sorry, a 6th. All right, it's time to throw some shade. Let's go ahead and get some shade. If you've got shade, to throw it in the chat. I'm throwing shade at whoever's in charge of scheduling in our country. Time to throw some shade. Here we go. Shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon to save some money on that new ride, or check them out online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. So shade to be thrown in the chat. I'm sure there is plenty of it. So bring on your shade. Jeff, shade on officiating in college football. It has been atrocious all year. Yeah, it has been. It's officiating is just going to get worse the better our technology gets. We get to see everything and they can't. Now, the automatic assist has improved some things. Like last night in the Steelers game, I thought they used that very well with the George Pickens touchdown where he did not get his left foot down. They use automatic assist to get that correct. They use it on another George Pickens play.
Crazy rule, by the way. Outrageous rule.
Yeah.
You're telling me I can one-legged hop from the 20-yard line into the end zone and it's not a touchdown? That's so crazy. Gotta change that. Gotta fix that.
I did have a side shade on on referees, because there was something that happened in that Giants Steelers game last night that really pissed me off. It was the one that Malik Neighbors had the touchdown got called back on the Giants because Malik Neighbors did not set long enough before going into motion.
Right.
That is some hall monitor BS by the referees. Like, who hurt you when you were young to make you feel like you have to be that much of a stickler?
Big loser energy.
Yes. Like that is a hall monitor stuff. It's like, come on, man. He didn't pause long enough before he went into motion. Like, give me a break, dude.
That's getting pulled over for going 75 on the interstate. It's like,
that's not the intent of the rule. Like, I understand you have to like call penalties that are penalties, but like, come on. Like, that's being too subjective.
Get real.
Yes.
Relax.
Yes, yeah. That's hall monitor BS. All right.
Okay.
So I'll read some more shade before I let you get to yours here, Easton.
Okay.
Brock, shade on Brian Callahan for refusing to fix the special teams because it was a friend is the coordinator. Trevor says shade on Amy for selling us wolf tickets, firing Vrabel because he's an alpha male with everybody energy. Oh man.
I think he got fired for more than that, for what it's worth.
Shade on the Big Ten for reversing a targeting call suspension so crybaby Ohio State could have their linebacker to play versus Penn State. I don't know.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Let's see. Jabu says shade for putting number 3 Penn State versus number 4 Ohio State at noon. It should be a night whiteout game. Well, Jabu,
yeah, I hate that.
That's what the Big Ten wanted. Like,
why Fox, did you want that?
Fox that's honestly, it's smart.
At noon?
Yes.
Noon?
Yes.
No, I want to be sitting around eating chili on the back porch with my family at 7:30 watching an electric game.
You're gonna be watching the SEC at that time.
No, see, it's 2024, baby. We got multi-view. I want to watch both. What's the great SEC game on that night? It's not better than Penn State, Ohio State.
Is it this weekend?
I don't know. Probably. What's the best SEC game this weekend?
Oh crap! I knew it. It's not Alabama LSU yet. I can't remember.
I'll look it up.
All right, more shade. Daniel shade on Rand for the ball didn't bounce his way nonsense.
Oh man,
that was not a good quote. Anthony says shade on him for for still caring about the Titans. Major Key shade of the HVAC man for charging $1,000 for a control panel replacement.
Jeez.
Oof. Shade Steve on Tim Hortons offering pizza in their drive-thrus.
That's a wild sentence. I don't really understand that sentence.
Wait, why is it bad to offer pizza in the drive-thru?
I know. Have you been to a Tim Hortons?
Nope.
Oh, I've never been to one. I don't know what it's about. I know people love it up north. I didn't know they had a drive-thru, and I certainly didn't know they had pizza. I thought it was
what's wrong with having pizza at a drive-thru?
Follow up on that, whoever that was. What's the issue here?
Yeah,
we have one now, by the way. They built one in Nashville somewhere. I saw this in the news.
Oh, Matt says, imagine Starbucks making pizza.
Okay, so that's what I kind of thought.
They have breads.
But do you go to Starbucks for a flatbread pizza? If you're like, I really want pizza, what are my options? Starbucks.
I don't do Starbucks. All right, so did you find the SEC schedule for the week?
Yes, I did. We've got a bunch of nothing. Tennessee, Kentucky, A&M, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Vandy, Auburn.
Is this the same week as Penn State, Ohio State, though? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So the Tennessee, Kentucky game's on SEC Network, so that's not the
best top 25 games. Obviously, the best game of the week, not close. Ohio State, Penn State, 3 versus 4. And then you've got
Texas A&M, South Carolina is the one.
Yeah, that's the best SEC one. Pitt, SMU is 18 versus 20. It's kind of a flat week of college football in the top 25 besides that game. That game is awesome.
That's what they want. Like Fox.
And by the way, it's actually at 11 our time, noon Eastern. So
yeah, it's big noon kickoff, man. Like that. Hell yeah, bring it on. Bring it like big noon kickoff. Like their ratings have been so good, They put their biggest game of the day.
I could not care any less about their ratings. I care about when I want to watch a football game. Do you think I give a rip about the executives' ratings? No,
but the ratings tell me that people are watching it at 11 a.m. Central.
And I think more would watch if you put it on at 7:30.
Again, that's just how they've had to set their contract.
There's a reason the concept of prime time has dominated television ratings for 100 years.
No, there's also a reason why before this year, the SEC game of the week has been at 2:30 on Saturday, not prime time. Again, there's a lot of just different, like, this is where human tendencies come into play with this conversation, but I'm not going to do that. All right. So my shade, Easton, is on.
Hang on, is your shade good? Because mine's lame. Can I just get mine out of the way?
Yeah, go ahead. You go.
Yeah, I don't want to have to follow up a good shade. My like I honestly I keep forgetting to prep my shade, and so I just realized when we pulled up the thing, crap, what's my shade? And I just look out my window and look at how warm it looks. So that's my shade. Is that it's October 29th, my wedding anniversary, by the way. And
did you also just remember that?
No, I knew that. I knew that.
Okay,
part.
Good.
don't do me like that. Come on now. No, I knew that part.
I gave you the opportunity to answer the question.
Yes,
right?
I did. In fact, know that. She could probably hear me from the house. But man, it's gonna be 80 degrees today. It's gonna be 80 tomorrow. Yesterday I was talking to my wife. I'm like, I need to go t-shirt shopping because I've gotten to the point just where you get to a point where you're just wearing out t-shirts. And you're like, I need new t-shirts. I'm wearing the same 5 t-shirts. And then I'm like, wait, it's almost November and I'm still considering wearing t-shirts. Like I should not be worrying about this right now. I want to be wearing jeans and a flannel every day, but it's freaking 80 degrees outside. Get it together.
Yeah.
Get it together.
Shade on Mother Nature, Demetrius says. My shade is on the country's schedule maker.
Right.
Because I've been on this for a while.
Who
It's
is that,
been
by the way? Who
over a month.
making the schedule?
I don't know. It's not Greg Sankey because he wouldn't do it this way. Okay. Greg Sankey has a lot of power, SEC commissioner.
Right.
But he's not this much power. So November 5th is election day. It's also NFL trade deadline
right.
day. It's also the day that the first college football playoff rankings come out. So that is a trifecta of madness that is going to make the internet one crazy ass place.
It's going to be so much fun.
And I don't know what to expect. I honestly have no clue how it's going to work. But I also found this because I was working on, some future schedule planning in the new year, just kind of getting a grasp of like what weekends are and what opportunities. And okay, the college football playoff is new, right? So like when's the first round games versus when the second, all that. January 20th is also going to be another like who the hell planned this type of day.
Oh,
because January 20th is a Monday, which is MLK Day.
Right.
It also happens to be the day of the first ever national championship game after a 12-team college playoff.
Cool.
So college ball playoff game on January 20th.
Okay, that's exciting though because we're all off, or a lot of people are.
Yeah,
off.
January 20th also just happens to be inauguration day for whoever is going to be elected on November 5th.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Let's you know what? Twice a year, let's get all of the highly contentious, potentially explosive things out of the way at once. Let's just speed run it. I like this actually. I anti-shade from me on the schedule makers. I like this.
I'm just like, okay. Like, just another day, the internet will like, and you know what? It's also the Monday after the divisional round of the NFL playoffs.
So we're all going to be on TV and on the internet.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you don't get off work on MLK Day.
I figured we don't, but a lot of people do.
Yeah. A to Z Sports, we work on MLK Day because it's right in the thick of the NFL playoffs, and also is the national championship game, by the way. So
plenty of things to talk about here at A to Z on that Monday.
So that is it is going to be a wow. So November 5th and January 20th, just absolutely bonkers days. That is a buckle your seatbelt, keep all hands and feet in inside the ride at all times. That is what those days will be.
Those are days that that's a Monday and a Tuesday. Those are the kinds of days where the entire news cycle of that week are going to be based on that one day. Like that, what happens on the Tuesday we're about to experience will be enough to sustain us in the news world for the next 7 days. We can talk about just what that day brought us, I'm sure.
Yep, basically. There's too many jokes. All right, so that's my shade, is just that, man, we really hit the scheduling madness this year hard. So there you go.
There we go. All right.
That's it for us on this Tuesday. Sam will be live for A to Z Sports Prime Time tonight, 7 p.m. Central Time on the same channel. So make sure you check that out. Also, we'll be back tomorrow morning on a Wednesday to play some trivia and to talk about what else the Titans have going on outside of special teams, because we spent an hour on special teams today. So make sure you hit that like button before you go on Facebook and on YouTube. Like the show, please. Goes a long way for us, and we'll catch you guys later on. Appreciate it as always.